If you ever want to know when your world is about to implode, pay attention to the dinner invitations that come with too much sweetness. That's the trick, really. Real love doesn't need a cherry on top. It just shows up, unannounced, with a pizza box and tired eyes. But that night, Ashley smiled like a game show host, called me babe twice in one sentence, and asked me to meet her for dinner, just the two of us. I should have known something was off. The restaurant was fancier than usual. Cloth napkins, wine menu that doubled as a mortgage application, and a candle that tried way too hard. I walked in hopeful, naive. Maybe she wanted to reconnect. Maybe she missed me. She was already seated. With him. Logan, she said with the kind of bright, artificial tone reserved for customer service reps and cheaters caught red-handed. This is Chase. Chase stood up halfway, just enough to let you know he was polite, but not enough to be respectful. Tall, tan, built like a fitness influencer with just the right amount of smug. I looked at him, then back at her, then at the chair she expected me to sit in, like I was a guest star on the Ashley and Chase show. Pleasure, he said, his handshake non-existent. Ashley and I have been meaning to talk to you. Talk to me. Over pasta. In public. With this GQ knockoff sitting in my chair. You've got two options, he added, calm as a cucumber in therapy. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. I blinked. Once. Twice. Then I laughed. Quietly. Because sometimes laughter is the only thing standing between you and a felony. I'm sorry, I said, eyes locked on his. Did you just challenge me to a duel? Over linguini. Ashley sighed. Logan, please don't make this harder than it has to be. Harder. I raised an eyebrow. You brought me here for an ambush. I thought we were working on us. But apparently, us now includes a third wheel with abs. I stood up, looked at them both, and said nothing else. Sometimes silence says what 1,000 shouted curses can't. I walked out that door and into a new chapter, one I hadn't asked for, but one I was about to own completely. The night air outside the restaurant hit different, like the wind had opinions and wanted to slap some sense into me. I didn't go home. I drove. Nowhere in particular. Just drove. One hand on the wheel, the other gripping a steering wheel that suddenly felt like the last thing I had control over. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the porch light was still on. That was her touch. Ashley always left it on like a beacon, like some cheesy metaphor for, we're in this together. That night, it just looked smug. I walked in to find the house already changed. Not physically, but spiritually. You know what I mean. When you can smell that someone's packed up emotionally even if their toothbrush is still by the sink. Her voice called out from the living room. You left your phone at the restaurant. I looked at her like she was a stranger on my couch. The couch I paid for. The couch we used to fight and make up on. So you brought your new boyfriend to dinner, and now you're worried I might miss a text from my dentist? I said, grabbing the phone and sliding it into my pocket. She didn't flinch. That was the part that really got me. No shame. No remorse. Just that same cool tone, like she was reading grocery list items. I wanted it to be civil, she said. Civil, I echoed. Nothing says civility like ambushing your husband with his replacement. She sighed, like I was the difficult one. Logan, we've been distant for a while. I thought. You thought you'd cheat with someone who wears skinny jeans and protein shakes. I cut in. That got a reaction. Her eyes narrowed. Don't be petty. No, I said calm. Petty is what you did. This is called a consequence. There was a silence. Heavy. Real. You want to talk divorce? I asked. She nodded. I already spoke with an attorney. Of course she had. She always planned ahead. Then pack up your yoga mat, Chase's cologne, and whatever self-respect you've got left, I said, heading upstairs. Because I'm not going down with your ship. Behind me, she said nothing. That was her way. Ice Queen all the way to the end. But me? I wasn't frozen. I was boiling just under the surface. And I knew, somehow, this wasn't going to be the last surprise. A few nights later, I found myself doing something I swore I'd never do. I started snooping. Now, I'm not proud of it. I used to think trust was sacred, like some moral North Star. But when your wife introduces her affair over fettuccine and then accuses you of overreacting, the rules start feeling negotiable. It started with her tablet. She left it charging on the kitchen counter. Unlocked. That's not bravery, it's arrogance. I told myself I was just going to check the browser history. You know, just in case she was Googling how to betray your husband with flair. But one tap led to another, and before I knew it, I was elbow deep in her digital diary. Photos. Messages. A document titled Ashley Life Plan 2025. And there it was, a full PDF outlining her new life with Chase. A move across town. A joint bank account. And a vacation itinerary, Greece, in June. Greece. I stared at the screen. Funny thing is, Greece was my dream. I used to tell her, one day, we'll walk those ancient roads together. She used to smile and say, I'm saving it for when it really means something. Well, turns out it meant something to her. Just not with me. I scrolled further. There were notes. Things like, Logan might not take it well, keep conversation short and calm. Tell him Chase is good with finances. Do not bring up the Vegas weekend unless forced. Vegas? Vegas wasn't even on my radar. I hadn't been west of the Mississippi in 3 years. I laughed, quiet, bitter. I felt like I was reading the enemy's war strategy. My phone buzzed. A message from my buddy Nate. You okay, man? I heard some stuff at the gym. Of course he had. That's the thing about betrayal, it echoes. It doesn't just affect you. It ripples through the people who thought they knew you. The people who thought they knew her. I put down the tablet. Took a deep breath. The sadness I'd been wrestling with started to dissolve into something else. Not rage. Purpose. Because now I had something better than heartbreak. I had evidence. A week passed. The silence in the house wasn't peaceful, it was surgical. Every corner echoed like it had witnessed something unforgivable. Ashley wasn't staying there anymore, and honestly, the air felt a little less toxic without her hairspray and half-truths clouding it up. But this wasn't freedom. Not yet. I'd started collecting my thoughts the way a detective collects clues, methodically, with just enough detachment to keep from falling apart. Her tablet? Copied. Emails? Screen captured. The Vegas trip I hadn't known about? Oh, I knew now. A hotel reservation in her name, but a joint check-in with Chase, complete with a cheesy note, to my favorite mistake. But here's where things got layered. Chase. On the surface, he was textbook affair material. Young, smug, a business consultant, which, let's be real, is just corporate slang for a PowerPoint hustler. But I started digging. Because if you think I was going to let this guy waltz into my life, steal my wife, and do it all with a spray tan and no consequences, you haven't met me. I had a friend, Dan, former cop, now private investigator. I called him. Logan, he said when he picked up. Been a minute. Yeah, I said. Got a favor I need to cash in. It's about a guy named Chase Donovan. Dan didn't ask questions. He just grunted. Send me what you got. I did. 24 hours later, he called back. Your boy Chase, Dan began, and already I could hear the grin forming, is not exactly the golden retriever he plays on Instagram. I leaned forward. Hit me. He's been sued 3 times for fraud. Civil suits, all quietly settled. One was for misappropriating company funds at a startup he helped consult. Another was from a woman who claimed he took 20 grand from her under the guise of investing in crypto. The third, that one was sealed, but the timeline overlaps with a restraining order filed by a woman in Miami. I went quiet. Dan added, and Logan? He's got no certifications. No MBA. Nothing. The guy's a glorified motivational speaker with a well-fitted blazer. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. You okay, man? Dan asked. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I was tired of things not making sense. Yeah, I said. I'm more than okay. I'm inspired. That night, I stood in our old bedroom, staring at the mirror. It was the same mirror Ashley used to fix her makeup in. Same mirror where I used to catch her smiling to herself, back when things were good. And now, all I could see was a man who'd been played, and was just about done playing nice. It wasn't about revenge. Not exactly. It was about recalibration. Ashley wanted a new life? Fine. But I was going to make sure she started it with a very clear understanding of what clean slate actually meant. Step 1. I went to Chase's office. Spoiler alert, it was a shared workspace with one lonely fern and a receptionist who had no idea who he actually worked for. I left a little envelope with his name on it. Inside, a copy of the fraud suit records. Annotated. Step 2. I visited Ashley's attorney's office. Sat down with a man named Mr. Greer. Nicest bulldog you'll ever meet. He said Ashley was filing for amicable divorce. I told him it wouldn't be so amicable once the court reviewed her financial trail, especially the funds she siphoned from our joint account to bankroll Chase's Tesla. Step 3. I sent an anonymous tip to her HR department at the firm where she worked. Nothing aggressive. Just a quiet heads up about possible breaches of conduct related to company travel reimbursements. Turns out, Vegas wasn't just a personal trip. It had been billed under corporate networking. Oops. But I wasn't done yet. See, one night I drove past a downtown bar, the kind of place Chase was known to haunt. His gym selfies were practically GPS coordinates. I parked across the street, leaned back in the driver's seat, and waited. And there he was. Same cocky walk. Same overpressed shirt. Smiling like the world had handed him a loyalty card to every woman's heart. I didn't approach him. I didn't need to. Instead, I watched. Watched him lean in too close to a different woman than Ashley. Watched him consult her over cocktails. And when I snapped the photo, her laughing, his hand on her lower back, I felt a strange kind of peace. Not because I wanted to expose him, but because it confirmed what I already knew. Ashley wasn't special to him. She was just next. Back at home, I printed the photo, sealed it in an envelope. No note, just the image. The next morning, I dropped it in her mailbox. Some people burn bridges. I build little signs next to them. Told you so. I didn't hear from Ashley for 3 days after the photo landed in her mailbox. And that silence? That wasn't peace. That was the sound of storm clouds gathering over her perfect little plan. On day 4, my phone lit up. Her name. No text, no voicemail. Just a call. I let it ring. Sometimes power isn't loud. Sometimes it's just refusing to answer. But by that evening, she was at the house. No warning, just the sound of tires crunching the driveway and a knock on the door that sounded way too casual for someone whose double life was unraveling. I opened the door and leaned against the frame. Didn't say a word. She wore that same look she used whenever she was cornered, half defiance, half damage control. We need to talk, she said. Talk, I replied. But do it from the porch. She crossed her arms. Really? Really? Ashley took a deep breath and stepped back. Fine. There was a beat of silence. Then another. She glanced toward the street, then back at me. You're making this uglier than it has to be. I tilted my head. I gave you the gift of silence. You gave me Chase. We're already past ugly. Her jaw tightened. I saw what you left me. The photo. I didn't respond. Just waited. So what? She snapped. You want me to be hurt? You want to rub it in? No, I said. I want you to understand the kind of man you threw away 20 years of my life for. Ashley folded her arms tighter. And what about you? Digging up lawsuits? Contacting my work? Don't act like you're the bigger person here. I chuckled. Ashley, I'm not trying to be the bigger person. I'm just trying to be the last man standing. There's a difference. She bit her lip and looked away. I just wanted something more. And now you've got it, I said, calmly. You wanted a man who made you feel something. Turns out what he makes women feel is defrauded. You think you're so clever, she said. No, I said. I just stopped being stupid. She didn't have a comeback for that. She shifted her weight, fiddled with the strap of her purse. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said softly. I smiled, but it wasn't warm. That's the thing about betrayal, Ashley. It doesn't need intent to do damage. Just momentum. Another pause. Then she looked up, her voice almost desperate now. So what happens next? Are we going to fight in court? Drag each other through the mud? I looked her dead in the eyes. No need. You already dragged yourself. She blinked. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You'll get the car, your clothes, and half of what's clean and legal. You'll sign off on spousal support $0. You'll keep whatever you had before you decided to star in your own romantic drama. And me? I'll walk away without owing you a damn thing. And if I don't agree, she asked, arms still folded but voice less confident. Then the Vegas receipts, the company misuse, and Chase's history become very public. And if I have to play hardball, I will. But let's be honest, Ash, you've already lost the PR war. You're not going to win in court and in whispers. Ashley stared at me for a long time. I didn't expect this side of you, she said. That's because you were too busy rehearsing your exit to notice the man you were leaving. She nodded, slowly. I'll think about it. You do that, I said, and closed the door. Later that night, I sat alone in the living room. The same couch where she used to curl up beside me, legs tangled, laughing at movies we didn't even finish. And yeah, the loneliness hit like a quiet tidal wave. But here's the thing. There's a version of heartbreak where you cry in the shower and question your worth. Then there's this version, the one where you rise like a man who's been sharpened, not shattered. The fire didn't destroy me. It refined me. The next morning, I checked my email. Subject: settlement proposal. Ashley's lawyer. Agreed to terms. No spousal support. No drama. Just an ending. It felt anticlimactic. Like the last episode of a show that used to thrill you but ended with a whisper. Still, there it was. Closure in black and white. But I wasn't done. Because there was still one more name on my list. Chase. He had one weakness left. One string I hadn't pulled. And I was just about to tighten it. After the dust settled with Ashley, I could have stopped. I could have closed the door on the whole mess, chalked it up as a lesson carved into my soul, and moved on. But I didn't. Because Chase Donovan wasn't just a mistake Ashley made. He was a professional parasite. And men like him don't just take your wife. They take your peace, your pride, your damn narrative. So, I did what any calm, law-abiding man with a sense of poetic justice would do. I made a plan. No theatrics. No rage. Just clarity. Step 1 was simple. Find out where he worked. Or, more accurately, pretended to work. I'd already learned from Dan, my PI buddy, that Chase operated under a maze of shell companies. No clear employer. No real job. Just a LinkedIn profile full of buzzwords and delusions. But one thing was concrete, his latest venture, Donovan Development Group. Sounds fancy, right? It was a 2-man operation renting office space above a frozen yogurt shop. I paid the yogurt place a visit, got myself a cup of mint chocolate chip, and made small talk with the college kid behind the counter. You ever see the guys upstairs? I asked casually. He shrugged. Yeah, sometimes. One of them's always showing off his Tesla. Real networking bro vibes. That was Chase, all right. I nodded. That guy ever mention a guy named Logan? The kid shook his head. Nah, but he's always meeting people up there. Like pitch meetings or something. I think he's trying to start a crypto thing. Of course he was. I dropped the tin in the tip jar and left. I didn't need to know more. Because what came next wasn't about Chase's business, it was about his brand. You see, Chase lived on perception. His whole image was built on charm, ambition, and the illusion of success. It was how he got women, money, and trust he never earned. So I set my sights on the one thing he couldn't defend, reputation. I started small. A fake email. An anonymous complaint to a local business bureau. Nothing illegal, just questions. Inquiries about shady investment seminars linked to Donovan Development. The kind that raise red flags in all the right places. Next, I created a burner Twitter account. Chase Invests Truth. I posted public records of his lawsuits, linked to archived court documents, even posted photos of him with Ashley, timestamped during a week he was supposed to be in Chicago consulting. All facts. No embellishments. Just receipts. And then, I tagged a few finance watchdog accounts. Nothing goes viral faster than the scent of a fraud in designer shoes. By the end of the week, Chase's online footprint had gone from curated luxury to cautionary tale. I didn't stop there. I called an old friend, Lisa, PR guru. Ran reputation management for a few big tech companies before branching out on her own. I need a favor, I told her. I don't usually do smear campaigns, she replied with a half laugh. It's not a smear if it's true, I said. And besides, I'm not asking you to wreck him. I just need you to amplify. Lisa agreed, mostly because she remembered how much Ashley used to brag about her motivational genius boyfriend. She always thought he was a walking TED Talk waiting to be indicted. 3 days later, Chase's name started showing up in threads on LinkedIn and Reddit. Avoid this guy. Has anyone else been ghosted after investing? Why does this man have 3 LinkedIn profiles? He tried to fight it. I know because he posted a video. Black shirt. Fake bookshelf background. That same smirk. Don't believe everything you read, he said. Some people just can't handle success. Oh, Chase. You sweet summer sociopath. The comments turned savage. One user even wrote, Success? Bro, your office is above Yogurt Galaxy. I'll admit, there was a thrill to it. But the high wasn't revenge. It was justice. Balanced. Measured. Legal. I didn't need to put hands on him. I just needed the world to stop shaking his. One night, around midnight, my doorbell rang. I checked the peephole. It was Ashley. Hair frizzed. No makeup. Eyes puffy. I opened the door and stepped outside, leaving the door cracked behind me. What are you doing here? I asked. He's losing it, she said, voice small. Define losing it. He's threatening people online, blaming me for everything. He says you orchestrated some kind of character assassination. I raised an eyebrow. Did I? You know you did. I smirked. And what are you hoping for here, Ash? That I'll feel bad? That I'll apologize for defending myself after you burned the house down? She said nothing, just stared at me like she was searching for the man she used to manipulate. But he wasn't home anymore. Go back to him, I said. Or don't. Not my problem. You won't stop, will you? She whispered. I leaned in. Ashley, I already stopped. What's happening to Chase now? That's just gravity catching up. She blinked, her jaw twitching slightly. You're not the man I married. No, I said. I'm the man you taught me to become. Then I closed the door. And finally, I exhaled. For the next few weeks, things were quiet on the outside. But underneath, the tremors never stopped. Word around town was that Chase had gone full scorched earth. He wasn't just defending himself. He was unraveling. Apparently, he'd tried to pitch a new business venture, something about a wellness app and motivational coaching. But investors Googled his name and backed away like they'd smelled smoke. Because they had. One woman allegedly asked during a pitch, "Didn't you defraud a retiree and steal someone's wife?" Hard pass. He stormed out, according to the Reddit thread. Threw a mug. That kind of energy. It was only a matter of time before his grip slipped completely. And then one Tuesday it happened. I got a call from Dan, my PI buddy. You sitting down? He asked. I'm always sitting for bad news. He snorted. Well, Chase Donovan just got arrested. My eyebrows rose. What for? Wire fraud mostly. Apparently the SEC had their eye on him since last year, but your recent trail of breadcrumbs lit the fire under their desk. He was running a phony investor network using funds from Ashley's former firm, among others. So, what you're telling me, I said slowly, is that Ashley's great romantic hero was a white-collar criminal. Yup, with abs. I laughed, for real this time. The kind of laugh that feels earned, like the punchline of a very long, very bitter joke. And Ash? I asked. Not charged, Dan said. But her name's all over the paperwork. She was listed as a financial liaison on a couple of his LLC filings. That explained the puffiness in her eyes the other night. She's in the blast zone, he added. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling, processing it all. You okay, Logan? Dan asked. That was the million-dollar question, wasn't it? I think I am, I said. I think for the first time in a long time. I'm okay. But peace doesn't mean nothing's left to clean up. There were still echoes of her everywhere in that house. Not just in the furniture or the forgotten drawer full of skincare products, but in the routines. The pauses in my morning where her footsteps used to be. The silence where her music used to play. One afternoon, I started boxing it all up. Not angrily, just decisively. Her books. Her framed college diploma that always hung just a little crooked. The dusty candle labeled Coastal Memories that she never once lit, but insisted made the room feel complete. Into the box. I opened the closet. Her wedding dress was still there, buried behind a few dry-cleaned coats. It was white, simple, expensive, the kind of dress that meant something once. I took it off the hanger, stared at it for a moment, then folded it, carefully, and tucked it into the box like I was burying a flag. The next morning, I drove to her apartment. Yes, she'd moved out of Chase's luxury condo. She was back in a modest place downtown, probably rented in haste when the feds started sniffing around. I rang the doorbell. She answered, eyes widening when she saw me standing there with a cardboard box. I'm not here to talk, I said, handing it over. Just returning what's yours. She hesitated. Took the box. Thanks, she said quietly. I nodded. Turned to go. Logan, she said. I stopped. Just enough to let her speak, but not enough to give her ground. I know there's no fixing it. I just want you to know, I didn't mean for it to end like this. I looked at her, really looked at her. Hair messy. No makeup. Sweatshirt too big. There was no fire in her eyes anymore. Just smoke. It didn't end because of Chase, I said. It ended because of you. Chase was just the mirror. Then I got back in my truck and left her standing there, holding a box of who she used to be. That night, I stood in the backyard, drink in hand, staring up at a sky that looked a little bigger than it used to. I'd done what I needed to do. The man who tried to steal my life was now looking at prison bars. The woman who shattered my trust was left holding the pieces. But I wasn't celebrating. I wasn't gloating. Because I'd realized something important. I didn't need them to suffer to heal. I just needed me to stop bleeding. And I had. Finally. The question now was, what do I build from the ashes? It took me another week to finally open the envelope. It had been sitting on my desk, sealed in pale blue with Ashley's name scribbled across the back. No stamp. Just left in the mailbox like a confession with nowhere else to go. Inside was a letter. No apologies. No poetry. Just this. Logan. I keep trying to figure out where it broke. Maybe it wasn't one big moment. Maybe it was all the little ones we let rot. I chased something shiny because I thought I'd lost my reflection. Chase made me feel new, like I was someone worth chasing again. But all he really did was borrow my loneliness and pretend it was love. I see now that the life you gave me was never the problem. I just didn't know how to accept something real. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I do hope someday you'll remember me with less bitterness. I remember you as my home. ***. I read it twice, then a third time, and then I burned it. Not out of spite, but because I didn't need to carry her voice anymore. I didn't need her narrative stitched to mine like some old scar. Let the past be ashes. Let it drift. 6 months later, I went back to the cabin. Our cabin, once, now just mine, tucked in the trees, just a few hours north. A place where cell reception failed, and the stars came out bold and unapologetic. I sat on the porch with a coffee and a new journal, clean pages, no backstory. For the first time in years, I wasn't reliving pain or rewriting memories. I was just living. My days had rhythm again. I'd rebuilt, recentered, even started dating. Slowly, carefully. A woman named Claire. Kind eyes. Dry wit. Nothing forced. Nothing fast. I'd told her about Ashley. About Chase. She didn't flinch. Just listened. And that silence? That was the real kind. The healing kind. At the cabin, I thought of Chase once, briefly. He was in federal custody now. Pleaded guilty. Minimum security for 3 years. Probably still trying to charm the guards. Ashley had moved cities. New job. New last name. Good for her. Let her try again. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. But I was never going back. It was a Thursday afternoon when I got the call from Dan. "You sure you want to hear this?" he asked. "Let's have it." Ashley filed for bankruptcy. I sat back in my chair, not smiling, not frowning, just absorbing. Turns out the financial fallout from Chase's schemes left her on the hook for a few things, Dan continued. Her new fiancé bailed when the heat came. Left her with debt and some legal tailspin. I sighed. "She'll figure it out." Dan laughed. "You really have let go, huh?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm done chasing ghosts." And I was. Because healing doesn't always look like revenge. Sometimes it looks like standing in the mirror, finally recognizing the man staring back. Sometimes it sounds like a porch creaking under your feet, or a laugh that's no longer wrapped in grief. Ashley cheated. Chase manipulated. They both built their world on illusions. Me? I built mine back up with quiet choices, honest words, long walks, good friends, and the one thing neither of them ever counted on, resilience. So here's my last word. You can lose everything. Your wife, your dignity, your sense of reality. But if you hold on just long enough, you'll find something better. Yourself. And I promise you, that man, he's worth finding.